Welcome to, I think, maybe your first virtual video from me. So I'm going to run through a few problems, things to look for. We're going to be still solving equations, but we're looking in particular at equations where we are going to multiply um, or divide first to solve. Now, I'm going to start with a typical equation, one that we've seen before. Notice this equation where the division line is only under the r, whereas in problem number 2, the division line is under the variable plus 6, so n plus 6. These two are going to require different steps to solve. In the first one, I can solve this like normal, where I would get rid of that negative 5 by adding it on both sides. I bring down what I'm left with. Negative 7 plus 5 is negative 2. And then I'll multiply that division out, and r is negative 8. If I were to check this equation, which we don't always do, but we can, I would I'll move it into a different color. My check is that negative 5 plus negative 8 divided by 4 should be negative 7. Well, that's negative 5 plus negative 2 equals negative 7, and that is a true statement. So we know we did that equation correctly. Check, that comes out right. Negative 7 equals negative 7. Now, if I look at the next problem, I have to be a little bit careful in my solving because the division bar is blocking the addition. And so I have to divide first, or take care of, in this case, undo the division first. So multiply that 2 out. So I'll multiply the 2, I end up with 6 equals n plus 6. I can subtract the 6. I have 0 equals n. So if I'm going to do my checkpoint on that one, I would have 3 is equal to 0 plus 6 divided by 2. So 3 is equal to 6 divided by 2. 3 is equal to 3. That checks out. So that is a correct answer or a correct solution. So if you're not sure if you're doing an equation correctly, you can always go through and do a checkpoint. Now when we solve the rest of the equations, I'm not going to go through that check step. Again, you can, but I just want you to be aware of how you decide or when you pick whether you're going to multiply or divide first. So the key thing that you have to watch out for is the fact that the 15 is underneath the entire negative 9 plus x, which means that that division bar blocks that negative 9 from being adjusted. Where normally I would want to get rid of addition and subtraction first, this fraction bar creates a grouping symbol. So I'm going to have to multiply the 15 out before I can do my solving. I'll add 9 and add 9 on both sides, and so x equals negative 6 is my final answer. And if I plugged that in, I should end up with negative 9 plus negative 6, which is negative 15. Negative 15 divided by 15 would give me negative 1, so that would check out. In number 4, it's another situation where this should look like just a normal equation to you, nothing fancy. There's nothing different there. So I'm going to subtract the 1. I have 14 equals 7x. Divide by 7, and 2 equals x. So I just went through that as a normal equation, normal solving. But when I look at problem number 5, there's just a subtle difference that we have to be aware of. And on problem number 5, that subtle difference is, again, a grouping symbol, those parentheses. And so in order to solve this, I'm going to want to get rid of that negative 3 first. Divide that out. So negative 51 divided by negative 3 is 17. And that leaves me with just the a plus 1, minus 1, and my 16 equals a, or 16 equals a. So in this particular problem, I did the opposite of what I did in problem number 4. Again, normally I undo the addition or subtraction first, but because that's locked in that parentheses, I can't. I've also seen people solve this one in an alternate form of solving, where they would maybe distribute the -3 through and then solve. And that's great. It works. That's an absolutely acceptable method of solving. That would be -48 equals -3a, divide by -3, divide by -3, and I should end up with 16 again equals a. Again, that's a fine way to do by distributing first instead of undoing the division. The problem is that that method won't work when we get into solving absolute value equations, which is going to come soon. Actually, we have a couple different things that we'll go through, but it'll be towards the end of this unit. We'll solve absolute value equations. So yes, you can do that, but there's a time when that method won't work. Okay, so I'm just always going to do it the way that I was talking about initially, and that is by undoing that division or that multiplication first. Divide that 2 out in this case. So n plus 5 is 6, minus 5 minus 5. So n is 1. What you're going to do now is there are a few questions that, involving this type of solving. We're going to focus on the 2 that are new, the ones that look like maybe something where it's all over a number. So problems like that where the division blocks the addition, and where we have maybe like this last one, I have the multiplication outside of a parenthesis where I have to either distribute that through or divide that out in order to get my final answer. So these are the 2 types of problems that we're going to focus on. I urge you on the second type to do the division style first, divide that multiplication out, as opposed to distributing. Now there are going to be problems where we have to distribute. That'll come again in the sort of near future. But again, there's going to be problems where we can't distribute. And so I want to make sure that we can kind of recognize both options. Good luck with this, and I will see you tomorrow. Have a great day.